YouTube. Hey, Rumble. Back at you. Coming back at you again. And today, this is going to be sort of a twofer, simply because it's one trim package, but two pistols. The recent care package that I have referenced a few times now, over the last 2 or 3 videos, is the Taran Tactical Innovations guns that have been sent to me. And what's up next is the Copperhead. Now, I was lucky enough to get 2 Copperheads. I have the 34 and the 17. And first of all, we're going to do a tale of the tape. And this is all based upon what Taran Tactical says about these guns. Then we're going to go back to Guerra and get maybe a Y. We do a few things and look at that then. And then, of course, we're going to do the range. But let's do the tale of the tape. This is called the TTI Copperhead Combat Master Package. It has the Copperhead bronze two-tone matte finish on it, which is a very striking thing. The Tunein Alpha Competition trigger with it has a special trigger shoe, and it has very nice bronze safety with it. The RMR footprint cutout for your optics, should you choose to ride that way. Black DLC barrel. You have a custom logo right there, and a laser stipple, which is sort of 3 parts. I had never seen this one before. That's sort of cool. The scalloped magazine release. The single undercut. You have some very nice grip reduction. You have a dual accelerator cut right here on the slide. The TTI carry magwell. The TTI fiber optic green front sight post. Can you see that as my finger in the way? There you go. Coyote bronze base pads for your magazines with a laser engraved TTI logo. And of course, the nice TTI carbon fiber striker plate. Interestingly enough, for whatever reason, and I haven't figured it out why, this gun seems lighter than this gun, although both are. I've been carrying this gun. I have got the Glock 26, and I have carried it as well. I haven't actually managed to carry this one, which is sort of odd because of the Glocks, besides the Glock 45, this is my favorite. But a really well turned out Glock 34, like this one, I mean, there's nothing about it that isn't just nice and light. Yeah, it's sort of long, but I have been carrying this one concealed. None of this matters. Let's find out some of the whys. I'm sure there'll be some redundant stuff, but let's go now to J.R. Guerra at Taran Tactical. He's the project manager. Right, as I've said many times before, I am not the all-being master of time, space, and dimension. Sometimes I got to ask the questions. And the other day, I got this care package with a couple of pistols in it out of 3. These 2 they seem very special to me. And these are referred to as Copperheads within the Taran Tactical Innovations catalog. And joining me to explain what makes there's a couple of attributes that these guns bring to it just on the physical look that are interesting. But I needed to get beyond interesting. Joining us again from Taran Tactical Innovations is project manager J.R. Guerra. Thanks for joining me again, sir.
How's it going, Bill? Good to see you again.
Okay. So the first thing I noticed with this gun, it's more pronounced in this gun than in the others, is this guide rod, this tungsten guide rod. The way you sort of reduce the front on it and everything. The trigger, which is this a Tunein trigger?
Yes, it is, sir.
Do they make it like this coming? I mean, that's
So when we first got a hold of the Tunein triggers, we installed them and we're like, wow, this has a lot of potential. This is great. We've been working with them pretty closely since the release of their trigger. We've noticed a few things that we wanted to improve upon. So in our opinion, it's pretty close to being a drop-in,
right?
But not as close as it should be. So there is hand work that we do to the Tuneins in order to get them to where they are. We keep the stock striker spring in there. And yeah, we usually get around 1.8 to 2.2 pounds with the pull. And then obviously, the reset is usually pretty positive and ends up being a lot shorter. And then the nice thing too is like in dry fire, because the trigger return spring in the Timney is designed differently. Like you always get like a little bit of return there. So it's pretty advantageous with dry fire too. Whereas on a stock Glock, once you press the trigger on dry fire, it's dead. You just kind of have to pretend things are going on. So that's kind of a nice little side effect of the Timney. But we do like them a lot. It takes us about anywhere between a half hour to 45 minutes of hand work, if not sometimes an hour, of hand work on the Timney to get it to where we like it. So it makes it pretty reliable. This isn't my gun, but my personal match gun, I've got, I don't know, about 12,000 rounds through one of the original Timneys that we did. And it's still going strong. I haven't had a single hiccup, a single light strike. Nothing's doubled, nothing's gone really crazy. But the design internally, which you can look on Timney's website, is it replaces some of the internals in the ejector housing, and it gives it like more of like an actual sear for the striker, the tail of the striker to sit on, as opposed to, the stock Glocks where, it's got that crucifix in the back and it just kind of like pretends to be a sear. This one acts way closer like a sear should. So sits on there nice and crisp, breaks nice and crisp, gives it a nice positive reset, and a much better feel. Even the pre-travel is a lot nicer and a lot less. And you can adjust the pre-travel on these. So as you might be able to see it, there's a little bit of leeway there where I could probably tune it a little bit more on the edge. But for guns going out to the masses, we want to make sure that all the safeties re-engage properly. So we give it just a little bit more instead of tuning it on the edge. So that way there's increased reliability. But as we all know, we love these Tupperware fantastic guns, but the tolerances aren't quite there. So each Timney will vary just a little bit. I can't always recreate, the exact one, but most people can't ever tell the difference. Like I said, it usually hovers around 1.8 to 2 pounds. Every now and then it'll creep up to like 2.2. But, as long as it has a really positive reset, I mean, that's what gets people shooting faster, right? So I would rather have a heavier trigger with a positive reset. That allows me to shoot a lot faster. So I also shoot on the Pro Team for TTI. And with these Glocks, like it's pretty easy to drop, 11 and 12 splits, which, is a lot harder to do with a stock one. I think there's only a couple people out there that can, rip splits like that with a stock Glock. But yeah, it makes it really easy. That nice, easy break makes it easier for longer, tighter, or more difficult shots. That's where a light trigger really comes in handy, is on those tighter shots as opposed, to the close stuff. So there is stuff that we do internally. I can't share exactly what we do. That's some NDA type stuff, and I'm sure you and all your listeners are not going to be able to sign that and adhere to it. But that's what you get from us. You don't just get a Timney that we just drop in there and say, okay, it's good to go. We hand fit everything. If things aren't jiving properly, then we keep working with it, until, it's exactly where it needs to be. And then obviously everything's test fired by, people like myself here.
One thing I've noticed, or one thing I've realized with Taran Tactical Innovations, that I think you guys may have the edge over anybody else that might be a competitor, is that you have shooters show up at your compound, whether they're a newbie YouTuber or a world champion, and everybody in between shooting these guns. And that tells me that you have an opportunity to watch how they perform in the hands of other people. Not only that, I'm sure like Taran did a video one time where he's holding up all of his guns and says, I've had this gun for 15 years. And I'm just thinking, is that 100,000 rounds through that gun?
I mean, most likely. We put a lot of rounds through our guns. So,
right.
So my personal Glock has way more than, 10, 12,000 on it. It's just 10, 12,000 with the Timney. I mean, that my personal Glock 34 is clapped out. I've got, I should keep better track of that kind of stuff. But I mean, easily, somewhere between 60 to 80,000 rounds, if not more. And she's, a little loosey-goosey on the tolerances. Again, this one isn't mine. But I mean, she still shoots pretty accurate, and, the trigger's working great. And, you replace some springs and, a few things here and there, and, they're usually pretty good to go. I'm still running the stock barrel on mine too. We do have some match grade barrels that we will be releasing soon. We did do a small run before. They sold out pretty quick. And now we're actually redesigning them just a little bit so we can get, a tiny bit more accuracy out of them.
Right.
So those will be coming soon.
Now, one thing you did say, you were talking about how these are not, well, you said this is not a carry gun, except I look at this and I've carried many 1911 in my time. I mean,
Oh, if you can
this,
carry a full size gun, I think you should.
yeah,
I don't necessarily feel 100% comfortable with a Timney in a carry. Now, not saying I haven't done it. I've done it before. But I just feel personally better about using more of like a stock trigger when it comes to carry.
right,
So I mean, can you do it? Sure. I know people that do it, and I mean, nothing weird has ever happened with these Timneys. Timney tests them pretty extensively. It's just kind of like more of like a personal thing, and more of like a company culture of like, hey, if you're going to carry your gun, we only recommend doing so much until something like this has been around the block more often than
right.
what we've seen already.
So this gun, which I have been carrying a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think that this is the answer to a prayer. I've tried all the other things. Taran tried to go, I could build you a P365. I said, nope, build me a Glock 26. So this right here, very happy with this. But both of these guns, because of the weight reduction and everything else, I could carry either one of these.
Oh yeah. So the grip on this one is slightly different. This is one of our employees' guns, so she wanted some custom work on the
Sure.
grip done by a friend of hers. But if you want to like hold up yours, that's what the Copperhead package looks like. We call this the Copperhead package. So you'll notice the stippling on the side is a little different, and you can only get it one way. So the only way you can get the Copperhead package is how you're holding it up right now. So the side panels are actually laser stippled, and we spent months with the laser machine trying to recreate exactly what we do by hand. And it took a long time to get it to where it is. And unless you tell people, most people pick it up and they can never tell the difference. So we haven't gotten to the point where we can get the front and the back strap done. Like again, we're trying to just step things out. So we still do the grip reduction by hand. Obviously, you got to shave everything down. And then we do the side panels with the laser stippling, which gives it those nice borders too. And then the front and back strap of the gun, like that's still hand stippled. We do the single undercut. You've got the little contact patch underneath, that like we talked about on your carry gun before. And then you've got the accelerator cuts on there, which again, that gives you just kind of like a nice purchase of like where your thumb should be resting. I mean, I won't get into how to properly shoot a handgun, but we know thumbs don't really do anything for recoil, just more of like an index point. So generally speaking, locking, that left wrist out, kind of like a handshake type sort of thing, tends to be advantageous for most people when they can get that clamp style grip. So it's a nice little just reference point there. But what you see there in that Copperhead package is what we, you can order it one way and get it one way. Gone are the days of like 1,000 different options on stuff. It's really confusing for people. We do have other options on our Combat Masters if you want to, do, something slightly different with the grip or whatever. But this seems to be what's preferred by most people. These are how all of our range guns are set up. And everyone loves it. Everyone with big hands, with small hands, and everything else. Just that slight grip reduction that we do gives you a nice purchase on there. The hand stippling obviously lets you grip it really well. It takes away that feel of a stock Glock kind of feels like you're holding a 2x4. I mean, it's just not very comfortable. So it makes it very, very comfortable. A lot easier to get your purchase on it. A lot easier to get your hand up a little bit higher with that single undercut. So yeah, we're pretty proud of all the work we do on the frame. And then obviously I talked about the Timney trigger. On the slide itself, what you have is our first run of like slides that we're manufacturing. So match grade slides are what we're currently producing right now. We have the SRO cut that's a lot lower than you can get when you machine a stock Glock slide. There's only so much meat you can take away on a stock Glock slide. But on these, you'll notice how low that SRO sits. There's very little daylight coming through there. So you can get a much lower, sight over bore axis. So it just makes it a lot nicer. Most people prefer it, the lower the better. Still plenty of room for the rear sight, dovetail in there, and to run that front sight, for a backup. And then obviously, we've got our nice, beautiful, butler cut on the front of the slide. And then, we cut additional pocket windows as well as slide serrations on the front and rear that lightens up the slide a lot. So that way we can go with a slightly, reduced recoil spring. Obviously, we want to balance that out with the weight of the striker spring when we're doing our Timneys. So we don't go super light on the recoil spring. So that way, what we don't want is it not to go into battery when you just kind of like, let it go like this. A slow release like this, the gun
Right.
could go back into battery, right? Now,
My,
if you're one of those, oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, no, what I was going to say was I noticed with the Glock 45, which had a Timney trigger in it, that the combination of the springing, the slide, and the trigger, that gun would go back into battery faster than a stock Glock Gen 5 would. Because I caught them in slow motion and I isolated each one of them to where the fireball was coming out, same size fireball. The stock Glock was still blurred and the TTI pistol was in focus. Everything was still and it had already cycled. So
yeah, I mean, a light and slide is always going to help out a little bit. I mean, you have less reciprocating mass coming back every time.
right.
So that will help with less felt recoil, a little less muzzle flip. But yeah, you have to balance everything out. So we spent a lot of time balancing out all the springs to make sure everything works the way we want it to. And it's not just about competition. We want reliability anywhere you go. But I'll tell you this right now, and Taran can attest to it too. If I don't win a competition or I don't place well, I don't want it to be because my gun went down or there was a misfire or something weird, right? So the nice thing from the competition world that, the tactical guys, can get on board with is we want this to be reliable or, we're going to lose. We're talking tenths of a second at times, at major matches. And again, if I do something stupid because, I'm a jackass or whatever, then that's on me, right? But I don't want it to be because of this. And that's the reason we spend so much time perfecting this. And it's been perfected over the years by Taran himself. I mean, the guy is, untouchable with everything he's done and still does. And, he's taken everything that he's learned and put it, into this package to make sure that it's not just, it doesn't just look the part, it performs as well.
So, I like to go get the whys from the guys that actually build them and know why. But once again, like all things that have to do with a pistol, if you're gonna run one and talk one, you got to take it to the range. Let's go do that. So coming off the range, I felt, I don't know, I was stunned. I've never had 3 come in from one customizer like this. Now, guns from Staccato, which are built from the ground up that start out life as a custom gun, versus a gun like this, which is, it starts out life as a stock Glock, and then it is massaged the way it is massaged. In terms of the way it shoots, in terms of the speed of function and everything else, the speed of cycling, the staying on target, and one thing that I have discovered, this is this is not a trigger that you want to put your finger on until you're getting ready to pull it, okay? Because it's just that light. But for me, that works out pretty good in terms of when I'm out there and I'm pulling the trigger, the gun just stays steady as it can be. So yeah, I'm more accurate with these than I've ever been with a Glock in my life. I have this love-hate relationship thing with them. Right now I'm in the love part of it. The love part of the relationship. I'm going to flash up the, I keep getting asked about the packages. This is TaranTacticalInnovations.com or TaranTactical.com. And the cost of the combat carry, which was the Glock 26 in the last video, you can find that right here. And the cost of the Copperhead treatment, the Copperhead modification package you can find right here. That's in the base configuration, which is what all of these guns have been, including the Glock 26. There are things, of course, that you can add to them if you like. Not a whole bunch, because these are really being massaged. If a modified Glock is your poison, this is the way to go. Just my opinion. I'm sticking to it. If you like this kind of content, and I hope you do, give me a thumbs up. Maybe think about subscribing. I'm about to go through a very large career change here shortly. I don't make a living off of YouTube, and my living is off of radio, and I'm about to go through a change in that, and so I'll be back as fast as I can, because I got other guns to shoot. I got a lot of work to do, so I don't even have time to talk to you anymore. I'm sorry. I'm out of here.